Lying became such an integral practice with the Latter-day Saints, church leaders instructed members how to lie about polygamy, according to the testimony of members given under oath. And you all have a rich heritage. I'm a convert, so I don't have this, but you probably have diaries, journal accounts, and stories from your ancestors that talk about these very things, about when the federal authorities would seek to arrest someone or question a child or question a family member. They lied. They would not give straight answers about their name, where they lived, who their parents were, who their brothers and sisters were. And what do you see when they raid a place like Waco, Texas, where there's a fundamentalist compound? You can't get the truth out of the kids, the husbands, the wives, anybody. It's a long-standing tradition. Henry S. Tanner explained that Mormons would be regarded by God as having made no promises, nor be accountable for lies told to protect the church. Tanner and others blamed the government for making them lie. Abraham Hoagland Cannon, an LDS apostle, I put it in quotes, took Annie Cannon after President Woodruff permitted him to do so in 1984, after the manifesto. Annie was taken as a concubine. Leaders pondered this practice because the revelation to Joseph about plural marriage mentioned that the Lord approved of concubinage. George Q. Cannon said, "I believe in concubinage or some plan whereby men or women can live together under sacred ordinances and vows until they can be married. Concubinage would provide a way to take care of our surplus girls." Isn't he thoughtful? He's a sensitive man. And to multiply and replenish the earth. 15 lines are cut out of Cannon's diary for October 1894, where the suggestion regarding concubinage was made. And so the present cover-up going on is there is no access to George Q. Cannon's diary to find out what else he may have said about concubinage or how widespread the practice was, unknown to historians today. Fake divorces attempted to mislead authorities. The logic was fake divorce was necessary to live the higher law of polygamy. The theology, earthly marriage or divorce was not binding in heaven anyway. And so if you're getting into trouble with the federal government because you're out of compliance, get a divorce. Doesn't count anyway in God's eyes. The Smoot hearings, congressional hearings from 1904 to 1907, held by the Senate to determine if U.S. Senator-elect Reed Smoot should be seated in the U.S. Senate, since there was plenty of evidence that Latter-day Saints had not been compliant when it came to their promises to repeal the practice of plural marriage. And so this, I just took a few things. This is a gold mine if you want to find lots of information about lying for the Lord under oath. Under oath, Apostle John Henry Smith testified he couldn't remember his own birth date, as well as other easily recalled facts. I think some of them were the names of his children and the names of his wife and where he lived, and just nothing. Some apostles were declared to be too sick to travel, but they traveled anyway. Longer distances than it would have been to come to Washington, D.C. And so it's carried on because if loyalty trumps honesty, and if it is your duty to do whatever you have to protect the prophet and the leaders and the church, then you just have to find an appetizing or a more pleasant way to say it in our day and age. In the official church curriculum, that's a continued cover-up. In the church education professional development program that I participated in, we were told that doctrine is anything that is in a church publication that the church has published, except for the church magazines, so that they can have plausible deniability. That means Talmage's Jesus the Christ, which the church published in, is it 1915 first? is considered doctrine, but something published by Bookcraft or Deseret Book or some other publisher is not. You may consider that to be the general authority's own opinions. And so we were told to use that as a guide because we were supposed to be the doctrinal conveyors of truth to the students. And so Joseph Fielding Smith said about the official church history, the most important history in the world is the history of our church, and it is the most accurate history in the world. However, the official history leaves out some important aspects of Smith's personality. He did not adhere to the word of wisdom. He was a serial adulterer. He bedded girls as young as 14. He used character assassination when his embarrassing behavior was revealed. And his prophecies did not come true. So some of them were retroactively reworked to make them look as if they had come true, or simply not included. Brigham Young was determined to paint those who challenged Smith's authority as traitors and liars, and so the church curriculum and church histories reflect that also. 60% of the history was written after Smith's death, but made to sound like he wrote it from his own journal accounts. The extermination order. What a lot of people don't realize, it was first threatened by the Latter-day Saints. 3 months before, the extermination was ordered by Governor Lilburn W. Boggs. I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying you ought to see both sides. Section 98 of the Doctrine and Covenants is basically a law of retaliation, where God gives you permission to go hunt down and kill your enemies after the third offense. There's a little more about the extermination order. This is what Sidney Rigdon said in his famous 4th of July speech: "And that mob that comes on us to disturb us, it shall be between us and them a war of extermination. For we will follow them until the last drop of their blood is spilled, or else they will have to exterminate us. For we will carry the seed of war to their own houses and their own families, and one party or the other shall be utterly destroyed." Smith approved of the speech, and it was printed in the Far West, a weekly newspaper, and the church's Elders' Journal. The church had its own War Department. The church was, they had a Secretary of War, their prophet and president. In the Nauvoo period, what was his rank? Yeah, king. Yeah, it was. He had himself. Yeah, yeah. And lieutenant general, or which kind of? Lieutenant general. And was he the first one since George Washington that had held that office? Huh? Was it? Okay, well, whatever he was. Yeah. How'd that work? Commander-in-Chief for the Zion's camp. That's right, yeah. And so there's a real militaristic and culture of violence. The Lord would fight their battles, Smith said, and avenge their enemies until the 3rd and 4th generation. The highest-ranking Mormon charged with murder was Apostle Parley P. Pratt during the Missouri conflict. He killed one Missourian and then severely wounded militiaman Samuel Tarwater. Some of the Danites mutilated the unconscious Tarwater with their swords, striking him lengthwise in the mouth, cutting off his underteeth and breaking his lower jaw, cutting off his cheeks and leaving him for dead. He survived to press charges against Pratt for attempted murder. His nickname was Lucky.